In a rematch with so much emotion, so much intrigue, so many different implications on the line, I think the Bengals might very well be in store for a road upset.
Perfect.
I think the Cincinnati Bengals have a lot going for them in this upcoming rematch with the Buffalo Bills. The Cincinnati Bengals have a lot of offensive firepower, starting things off first and foremost with quarterback Joe Burrow, who during this entire NFL season was top 5 in the NFL in passing yards, passing completion, as well as touchdowns, among a number of other categories for the position. And honestly, his ability so far in the postseason has been pretty remarkable, leading a Bengals team that last year wasn't expected to do very much all the way to a Super Bowl appearance, and now is moving on even further into this year's NFL playoff with a very similar and very interesting core along the offense, right? Even while being sacked 41 times, within the top 5 of the entire NFL in times being sacked, Joe Burrow has stayed ice cold and has been able to deliver for this Bengals offense, has been able to help lead an offense that is top 10, at least in points per game, which is honestly among the rest of the playoff teams pretty standard. However, this team honestly just has that it factor about them, and I really think a lot of that comes down to the ability and the play of their quarterback, their leader, in Joe Burrow. I think he just has that chip. He has that little knack, if you will, that's going to elevate this team into even further and further heights. But let's look even beyond Joe Burrow. Let's look at his receiving core, right? Jamar Chase, who even while missing a number of games this season, still notched a 1,000-yard performance last week against the Baltimore Ravens, a very familiar divisional foe, was able to bring in 9 catches, 84 yards, and a touchdown. And then alongside him, you've also got T. Higgins, another 1,000-yard receiver who in his own right has very good footwork, very good body control, and a knack to find the end zone as well. And the three-headed Hydra would not be complete without another elite playmaker coming out of the backfield in Joe Mixon, who accumulated over 1,000 total yards this season between the passing and the rushing game, 9 total touchdowns as well, and is really an X factor that defenses have to consider as well among the other myriad of very solid receiving options within this Cincinnati Bengals offense. But taking another step back, obviously the offensive line is the weakest link for these Bengals, and going up against a Buffalo Bills defense that has a very solid pass rush at the very least, it just comes down to what's going to break first, right? Joe Burrow or honestly the Bills defense, right? And in my personal opinion, between the myriad of weapons, the myriad of options, the comfortability while under pressure for Joe Burrow, I don't think that a pass rush alone is going to be what wavers Joe Burrow, Joe Burr, Joe Ice, whatever you want to call him. So, looking even past the offense, the defense for the Cincinnati Bengals is a top 10 rushing defense, is very solid as well along points per game allowed. If I'm not mistaken, they only allowed 20 points per game, which was good enough for the top 10 in the NFL. So a solid defense that reduces your ability to run the ball, reduces your ability to score points really, and forces you to have to be a little bit creative, right? What the Bengals defense really brings is a number of very good key playmakers, especially along the defensive line. Sam Hubbard and Trey Hendrickson, obviously a dynamic duo on the edges. And of course, in the secondary, you've got Jesse Bates, who is one of the more underrated safeties in the entire NFL. So you've got a few really good playmakers. And of course, all of that mixes into effectively an interesting matchup between these Buffalo Bills and the Cincinnati Bengals. What the Bills bring obviously is a lot of firepower on the offense. You've got Josh Allen, you've got Stephon Diggs, you've got Gabriel Davis, who is solid, especially in the playoffs. Dawson Knox has been a real stand-up for them at the tight end position. So you have a number of offensive weapons that are very versatile, know how to find the end zone, score a lot of points, and score them quickly, going up against a defense that is pretty solid, at least taking away the running attack. So Josh Allen may not be able to use his legs as much in this game to keep things off balance, but they're also really good at keeping you from scoring a myriad of points, which, I mean, the Buffalo Bills are able to do with pretty good frequency, right? And let's go back to the Cincinnati Bengals. What else do they do really, really well? Well, I mean, Evan McPherson's a solid kicker as well, so special teams wise, you've also got a nice little piece there. But what do I think is really going to be the decisive factor here between these two teams? I think it's really going to come down to the ability for the Cincinnati Bengals to create and cause turnovers against a team that was bottom 5 in the entire NFL going into this postseason in the turnover game, right? The Bills defense creates a lot of turnovers, but their offense coughs up a lot of turnovers. And in a game where every possession, every chance, every opportunity to score points absolutely matters, I think the team that turns the ball over less here could absolutely win. And that's really going to be my key to success here when it all boils down to, right? Are the Buffalo Bills going to give the Bengals more opportunities to score points? Are they going to give them more opportunities to create something? Are they going to give them more opportunities to keep the ball out of Josh Allen and company's hands? And at the end of the day, for a team that does give the ball away a ton against teams that don't, honestly, when it comes down to these really clutch, really big time games that you need wins, holding onto the ball, creating opportunities for yourself is what's going to be key here. And I think, again, the turnover differential here, along with the superstar level talent the Bengals have on offense, is really what's going to make or break this entire game. And that's honestly why I'm going to be leaning towards Cincinnati when it comes time for us to talk a little bit more about our picks. And now for the second portion of our video, it's time to talk our picks. Starting off with our Saturday slate of games, Jacksonville heading into Kansas City to take on the Chiefs in Arrowhead. And the keys to consistency here and what my deciding factor really is of course, Patrick Mahomes, Travis Kelce, and Andy Reid. I think a lot more things have to go right for the Jacksonville Jaguars to win this game than they do really for the Kansas City Chiefs. A lot of respect to Andy Reid and company. They have a very well-oiled machine that's gone to 4 straight AFC championships. This team knows how to win, especially in the postseason, and is looking for another championship with this trio. So give me the Kansas City Chiefs in this matchup. Moving on to our second of the 2 Saturday games, a division rivalry out of the NFC East. The New York Giants heading into Philly to take on the number 1 seed Philadelphia Eagles. And honestly, when you see an opponent 3 times in a given season, anything is really up for grabs here. The real big key here is how rusty really is Jalen Hurts, how much was him sitting out of the portions of the season late really going to affect him in this playoff game. The New York Giants had a very commanding performance against the Minnesota Vikings last week. Maybe they can ride that momentum. I'm honestly expecting this to be a close game for at least the first half, but I am going to be riding with the Philadelphia Eagles here. That extra week of rest, that extra week of preparation, especially against an opponent you're very familiar with and they've beaten twice this last regular season, is a really big deciding factor for me, so I'm taking the Philadelphia Eagles there. Moving into our Sunday slate, our 2 matchups, Cincinnati and Buffalo. I pretty much just laid it all out there for you already, so I'm taking the Bengals. And then finally, to move on to the NFC Championship, the Dallas Cowboys and the San Francisco 49ers, a matchup that has a ton of historical roots, a lot of historical implications behind it. This one could honestly be a lot of fun here. But the big deciding factor for me really is going to be Brock Purdy. So far, the kid has yet to waver, has yet to take an L in his NFL career. Commanding performance last week, especially in the second half over the division rival Seattle Seahawks, beating them for a 3rd time this season. So I think a lot of the question marks are starting to fall a little bit to the wayside. Can Brock Purdy play big-time football against big-time teams? So far, that answer is yes. He's beaten playoff teams like the Tampa Bay Buccaneers and now the Seattle Seahawks and beaten them pretty handily. So with a strong defense, a strong offense, all things considered, I think it would take a lot for Dallas. I think a lot of things need to go absolutely perfect, but I'm expecting this to be a really fun and tight matchup. However, I am going to be taking the San Francisco 49ers to move on to the conference championship. And with all that out of the way, thank you so much for watching the video. Of course, feel free, stick around and watch some more content. Like, comment, share, subscribe, and of course get the bell on to know every single time I'm dropping a video. My name's Tristan Blake Rines. Catch you in the next one. Adios.